Welcome back, Commander.
Reporting. Affirmative. Awaiting orders. Affirmative.
So this mission's gonna be
Yes, sir.
a little more hectic than a couple of the previous ones.
Reporting. Yes, sir. Affirmative. Yes, sir. Awaiting orders. Vehicle.
It's also a little more interesting, to be honest.
Affirmative.
Reporting. Acknowledged.
Yes, sir.
Affirmative.
Yes, sir.
Acknowledged.
Vehicle reporting. Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Reporting. Affirmative. Yes, sir. Acknowledged.
Ready and waiting. Yes, sir.
You might be able to tell that I've had to restart this maybe once or twice. Actually, I think only once.
Acknowledged.
Vehicle reporting.
Just because I was kind of messing around and seeing how far I could get away with building bases.
Awaiting orders. Yes, sir.
Acknowledged.
Yes, sir.
Acknowledged.
Vehicle reporting.
And the only reason I did that is because, well, looking at the map, it's kind of reminiscent of that one N64 map.
Affirmative.
You know, the one you start off and I immediately rushed an enemy base.
Sir. Reporting. Reporting.
Acknowledged.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Await. Acknowledged. Reporting. Acknowledged. Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Waiting order. Affirmative. Affirmative.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Acknowledged. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Affirmative. Yes, acknowledged.
Construction
Reporting.
options.
Acknowledged.
Building.
Awaiting orders.
Acknowledged.
If you ever want a really good example of like how good the AI could be, just go back like
Yes, sir.
8 or 10 seconds when you saw that heavy tank split 2 shots.
Vehicle reporting. Vehicle reporting.
It's not easy getting it right between that
Yes, sir.
like microsecond of a delay between shots.
Yes, sir.
Acknowledged. Vehicle reporting.
Acknowledged. At once.
Yes, sir.
Acknowledged. Reporting.
Affirmative.
By now I'm usually wondering where the heck the music is.
Reporting.
Acknowledged.
Don't worry, it'll show up again at some point.
Reporting.
Affirmative.
Construction complete.
Yes, sir.
Acknowledged.
Construction
Yes,
options.
sir. Awaiting
Building.
orders.
Affirmative. Affirmative.
Yes, sir.
Affirmative.
Unit
Acknowledged.
lost.
Affirmative.
Yes, sir.
Affirmative.
Yes, sir.
Affirmative.
Yes, sir.
Acknowledged.
Unit
Affirmative.
lost.
Yes, sir. Acknowledged.
Probably more so than quite a few missions.
Acknowledged.
We're set up with quite a lot of funds just lying around everywhere.
Reporting. Affirmative.
The only real reason to destroy those bridges is, in a way, to mitigate how much the enemy can get.
Affirmative.
It's not,
Awaiting orders.
you know, super important to do so.
Vehicle lost.
It's just kind of delays them from time to time. Because you end up either having to go towards the right, like you don't have that ease of access from the bridge, and at the same time, if you're going through the bridge, you're generally moving faster because it counts as a road.
Construction complete.
Affirmative. Affirmative.
Construction options.
Yes, sir.
Acknowledged. 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 Affirmative. Very well.
Yes, sir.
Affirmative.
Yes, sir.
Ready and perfect. Reporting. Affirmative. Affirmative.
Our base is under attack. Construction complete. Building. Low
Yes, sir.
power.
Affirmative.
Yes, sir.
Affirmative.
Vehicle reporting. Affirmative.
Construction complete. Cannot deploy here. Building.
Ready and waiting.
Awaiting orders. Affirmative. Vehicle reporting.
Affirmative. Acknowledged.
Awaiting orders.
Affirmative. Acknowledged.
Yes, sir.
Affirmative.
It's those lulls in combat when you finally realize, like, yeah, there's
Construction complete.
something missing from the game here.
Building.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Training.
Yes, sir. Awaiting orders. Acknowledged. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Unit ready.
Ready and waiting. Agreed. Yes, sir. Very well. Agreed.
Training. Unit ready. Training.
I kind of feel like I'm going to be cheesing this a little bit,
Unit ready.
and we'll see specifically what I mean by that soon enough. Just because I don't feel like what I'm gonna do is
Construction options.
intended.
Ready. Building. Building.
Yes, sir.
Acknowledged. Affirmative. Ready and waiting.
At once.
At the same time, maybe it's a little bit slower than
Waiting orders.
what it was.
Affirmative.
It's been a while since I've actually recorded these videos.
Acknowledged.
Yes, sir. Affirmative.
Acknowledged. Affirmative.
Insufficient
Ready and
funds.
waiting.
Yes, sir.
Acknowledged.
Yes, sir.
Affirmative.
Waiting orders.
Affirmative.
Vehicle reporting.
Affirmative.
In drawing some similarities from the N64 mission that had this entire like snow palette and a lot of cliffs and
Affirmative.
enemies everywhere, we can see that there's a few differences.
Building.
First off, now that we have a mini-map, there's seems to be a nice like lengthwise and lengthy base.
Yes, sir.
Maybe it's a couple outposts and like one central base. Regardless, it still spans the entire width of the map.
Construction
Waiting orders.
complete.
There's also not any sort of forces split between 3 different locations, so we don't have to worry about, say, an outpost in the top right or in the top left, mostly due because we spawn there, but
Affirmative.
if we spawn in like the middle of a map, we still wouldn't have to contend with that.
Acknowledged. Vehicle reporting. Acknowledged. Waiting orders.
Yes, sir.
Affirmative. Affirmative.
Yes, sir. Waiting orders.
Building.
And while there's a lot of funds on the minimap, it doesn't seem like there's as much on the left side as there is on the right.
Building.
Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Awaiting orders.
Affirmative.
Reporting.
Awaiting affirmative. Yes, sir.
Our base
Waiting
is
orders.
under attack.
Acknowledged.
Vehicle reporting. Acknowledged. Yes, sir.
Reporting.
Waiting orders.
Acknowledged.
Yes, sir.
Affirmative.
Yes, sir.
Affirmative.
Agreed. At once.
Unit ready.
This is also one of those missions that I don't think I actually ever beat as a kid.
Reporting.
Acknowledged.
Construction
Acknowledged.
options. Building.
I've said it before, but it's one of those things where
Cancel.
something appears too hard or, I couldn't wrap my head around it, so I just figured, whatever, I'll play something that's more fun.
Training.
Like, it's got that more immediate reaction to it.
Unit ready. Training. Unit
Reporting.
prepared.
Yes, sir. Ready. Yes, sir. Agreed. Affirmative.
At the end of the day, it's a little silly.
Prepared.
Some of these maps are genuinely interesting. The fact that all the hills, despite not having a lot of, minerals or ores,
Vehicle reporting.
there still is some spread out.
Prepared.
Waiting orders.
Unit
Stuff like having oil derricks that are just lying around on the map,
Waiting order.
Vehicle reporting.
regardless of what your opinion is on exploding barrels. The fact that, by destroying them, you generate cash that you can pick up is pretty neat.
Unit repaired. Unit
Yes, sir.
ready.
Reporting. Affirmative. Waiting order. Acknowledged. Yes, sir. Affirmative.
It's also becoming more and more interesting to compare this to other games in other series. For example, StarCraft or Age of Empires, where you don't necessarily get money directly, you'd get something along the lines of free units instead.
Reporting.
Unit ready.
Acknowledged.
Building. Training. Building.
I guess the major game changer is the fact that, Red Alert doesn't have anything even remotely close to upgrades. What you see is what you get, and it doesn't matter if you get 13 war factories or 3. It doesn't mean your medium tanks will ever perform better.
Acknowledged. Reporting. Acknowledged.
Building.
Whereas both the previously mentioned games have those sorts of abilities. They have something that will inherently upgrade its power.
Acknowledged. Yes, sir.
So
Unit ready.
balancing that must have been rather interesting. Whereas here you could, drop a couple oil derricks and give the player a couple of $1,000.
Yes, affirmative. Be acknowledged. 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 Affirmative. Affirmative. Yes, sir. Reporting.
Then again, it's also, you see, it's also something that you could bring attention to, that the fact that like Red Alert came out before either of those other games, and while the expansions certainly extended the time frame for Red Alert, it's not exactly the same thing.
Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Acknowledged.
So this is kind of what I meant by cheesing it. Sure, you're given 2 construction yards, but are you really supposed to be, getting right into the enemy's production and build there? Probably not.
Reporting knowledge. Vehicle affirmative.
Construction complete.
In my defense, though, I've seen this done countless times in StarCraft League, so surely it's appropriate for this game. Right?
Reporting. Acknowledged.
Construction complete.
Yes, sir. Very well.
Cannot deploy here. Building.
Waiting order. Acknowledged. Acknowledged.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Unit
sir.
lost.
Acknowledged.
Construction
Affirmative.
complete.
Affirm knowledge. Waiting affirmative.
Unit lost. Building.
Yes, sir. Affirmative. Yes, sir.
Unit lost.
Acknowledged.
Construction complete.
Reporting. Affirmative. Very well. Waiting orders. Very well.
Unit lost. Unit lost.
Acknowledged.
Yes, sir.
Building.
Affirmative.
Unit
Yes, sir.
lost.
Affirmative. 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 Acknowledged.
Construction complete.
Reporting knowledge. Affirmative.
Building.
Yes, sir. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Yes, sir. Acknowledged.
Construction complete.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure what I did to send the AI into such a
Unit
aggressive posture.
lost.
Yes, affirmative.
Construction complete.
Yes, sir.
I also feel like the further I get into this game or Red Alert and its expansions, the more I'm just
Yes, sir.
absolutely yearning for an attack move button.
Acknowledged. Vehicle affirmative. Waiting orders. Acknowledged. Wait affirmative. Not affirmative.
It's not that I can't enjoy this game without it,
Building.
it's just when you have that sort of,
Waiting orders.
I guess, simplicity of use for the player, as seen with other games of the slightly later time period, it just makes things so much nicer.
Vehicle
Affirmative. Affirmative.
Yes, sir. Vehicle.
And that'll just become much more apparent the later we get into this.
Yes, sir.
Affirmative. Acknowledged.
That, and I can't wait to have better, like, ore truck and harvester pathfinding.
Yes, sir.
That's gonna be nice. Also, shoutouts to that guy just walking on water there. I can't remember when he dies.
Reporting. Of course. Very well. Very well.
Construction complete. Unit lost.
Waiting orders.
Acknowledged.
Unit
Yes,
lost.
sir.
Yes, sir.
Unit
Yes,
lost.
sir.
Acknowledged.
Yes, sir.
Acknowledged. Waiting orders. Very well. Affirmative. Very well.
Building. Construction complete.
Acknowledged. Affirmative. Affirmative.
Building. Construction
Waiting orders.
complete.
Acknowledged.
Vehicle
Acknowledged.
Vehicle
Acknowledged.
Yes, sir. Ready and waiting.
So yeah, if you can slip in a mobile construction vehicle behind their refinery, you can kind of do a lot of damage.
Yes, sir.
Affirmative. Affirmative.
Yes, sir.
Unit ready.
Yes, sir.
I think it's pretty safe to say that, while the AI still has the means to get to you,
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
it doesn't quite have the same defenses facing away from its base.
Yes, sir.
Or, yeah, from behind,
Yes, sir.
Acknowledged. Affirmative. Affirmative. Acknowledged.
Yes,
Affirmative.
Yes, sir.
Acknowledged.
Yes, sir.
Affirmative. Affirmative. Acknowledged.
Building.
Reporting.
Acknowledged.
Construction complete.
Affirmative. Affirmative. Affirmative.
Building.
Here I'm hoping that if the AI is anything like me, it'll only have about 10 extra power to deal with literally all of its base.
Yes, sir.
Acknowledged. Waiting order. Affirmative. Waiting affirmative.
Yes, sir.
Affirmative.
Insufficient funds.
That I feel is another thing that will be pretty nice to, I don't want to say move away from, but not having to be so constrained by power.
Construction complete.
Affirmative.
Yes, sir.
There's just so many ways that it kind of limits you. And
Yes, sir.
obviously, power should always be an important consideration for a player. I feel like that the critical mass to it is reduced a lot in later games.
Yes, sir. Very well. Affirmative.
Unit lost.
Yes, sir.
Building.
Affirmative.
Unit lost. Unit
I guess to be more helpful about this mission, we've seen it at least like twice now. The AI loves to send dual V2 launchers and grenadiers at you.
building. Primary building.
And because the game doesn't always give you those messages, it's pretty typical that the V2 launchers will destroy whatever they're shooting at, and then once they finally get to the inner cloister of things, that's when you'll feel it.
Construction complete. Cannot deploy.
Affirmative. Acknowledged.
Building.
Reporting. Acknowledged. Affirmative.
Unit lost.
Awaiting affirmative.
Unit ready. Building.
Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Acknowledged. Waiting order. Acknowledged. Acknowledged.
Construction complete.
Affirmative. Affirmative.
Primary building selected.
So while it might not specifically be the case, it does seem that the Soviets have what appears to be 3 bases, or at least one outpost that has a refinery, this left portion which is divided by cliffs, and the center portion which just appears to have more of all the central and important buildings to it.
Unit ready.
Yes, sir. Affirmative. Acknowledged.
Unit lost. Building.
Yes, sir.
Unit
Acknowledged.
lost.
Affirmative.
Unit
At once.
lost.
At once.
Unit lost.
Affirmative.
Construction complete. Unit lost. Cannot deploy here. Unit lost.
Reporting.
Unit lost.
Yes, sir.
Unit ready.
Yes, sir. Awaiting orders.
Building.
The fact that we don't have any naval power to play with here is also a rather annoying weakness.
Yes, sir. Acknowledged.
Building.
Oh, and I'm just trying to revive the sandbag wall here.
Ready. Building.
You see, I don't like the fact that the Soviets can still actually harvest stuff.
Construction complete.
I'm trying to make it as hard for it as possible. And at the same time, I'm a little annoyed by my trucks always going into the Tesla coil range. So, 2 birds with 1 stone, you know?
Building. Construction complete. Building.
Awaiting orders.
Acknowledged.
Construction complete. Our base is under attack.
Yes, sir.
Acknowledged.
Yes, sir.
Acknowledged.
Unit lost.
Vehicle reporting.
Now, if only I had a nuke or something.
Acknowledged.
Yes.
Acknowledged.
Yes, sir. Reporting.
Affirmative.
Building. Building.
I guess that also bears mentioning. You never actually get to play with the nukes as the Soviets.
Building.
Maybe there's some sort of guilt there with giving you that ability in the Nod campaign in Siberian Dawn. Maybe I'm simply overthinking it.
Unit
I don't know. But it's interesting to think about.
Reporting.
Acknowledged.
Maybe it's some moral decision where,
Affirmative. Reporting.
you know, how do you feel giving a player the ability to nuke something? And
Reporting.
Acknowledged.
does it really serve the storytelling purpose?
Acknowledged.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Affirmative. Affirmative.
I guess in a way it made a lot more sense that Nod would be able to use it, or would depict them using it, because after all, they are a terrorist organization.
Unit
The Soviets just here are a different side of a global conflict. And while, yes, you can easily state and confirm that Stalin's actions in our timeline are rather reprehensible, to put it very mildly. But maybe, I don't know, maybe the fact that they're not losing this war, or weren't, in the campaign that you play as the Soviets, maybe that helps the fact that they don't have nukes available. Maybe they don't feel the need to have nukes. Or maybe just not deploy them.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Again, it's an interesting thing to think about, although
Yes, sir.
I doubt you'll ever really be able to come to any solid conclusions without obviously having a developer or whoever was writing the story for this game be able to pitch in.
Affirmative. Report knowledge. Report acknowledged. Affirmative. Waiting order. Acknowledged. Waiting order. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Report knowledge. Waiting affirmative.
Ready.
Affirmative. Vehicle reporting. Affirmative. Vehicle affirmative.
Building.
Reporting.
Insufficient funds.
Acknowledged. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Report acknowledged. Report affirmative.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Acknowledged.
Unit ready.
Reporting.
Affirmative. Yes, sir.
Affirmative. Acknowledged. Waiting affirmative.
Yes, sir.
Acknowledged.
Building. Building.
Reporting.
Unit
Affirmative.
Yes, sir.
Affirmative. Acknowledged. Acknowledged. Report acknowledged. Vehicle affirmative. Affirmative.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Affirmative.
Yes, sir.
Acknowledged.
This is one of those reasons why, for me anyways, missions where I'm forced to destroy everything on the map probably takes a lot longer than quote-unquote the norm. I always prefer being able to attack a base without having to worry about its defenses. For example, if currently I've got the power down and I don't have to worry about Tesla coils whatsoever, then why would I ever want to destroy them? There are already huge power sinks, and if I leave them standing, then that just exacerbates the problem as I move further and further into the enemy base, presumably destroying other power plants and so on.
Yes, sir. Reporting. Affirmative. Reporting. Waiting. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Vehicle. Yes, sir. Reporting.
Unit ready. Building.
The problem that comes up when you happen to have a mission like this with the destroy everything is that, well, with a base that, is rather sprawling, if we want to call it that, it just means that you've got to backtrack throughout the entire base to destroy everything.
Waiting orders. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Affirmative. Yes, sir. Affirmative. Acknowledged.
Building.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Affirmative. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative.
It's also a little annoying to constantly be strafed and shot at by Hinds. And I'm sure I could have easily built another barracks and,
Waiting order. Yes, sir.
rocket infantry, but
Yes, sir.
Unit
Acknowledged.
lost.
Yes, sir.
while I might complain about it, it's never a nuisance to the point where, I feel obligated to fix it. And if it is, then, I won't mention it because I'm a tank guy.
Affirmative. Being acknowledged. Yes, sir. Affirmative. Get acknowledged. Await acknowledged.
Unit
Yeah,
lost.
affirmative. Affirmative. Waiting order. Affirmative. Yes, reporting. Affirmative.
And that's why you should probably target, power plants first.
Acknowledged. Affirmative. Yes, sir. Affirmative. Yes, acknowledged. Reporting. Affirmative. Waiting orders. Affirmative. Yes, sir. Affirmative.
Building.
Reporting. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Yes, affirmative.
Unit ready. Building.
Wait. Affirmative.
Unit ready. Building.
Waiting. Affirmative. Yes, affirmative.
Unit ready.
Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Report acknowledged. Yes, affirmative.
Building.
Vehicle report. Affirmative. Waiting orders.
Unit ready.
Affirmative.
Building.
Yes, sir. Affirmative. Vehicle. Affirmative. Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Affirmative.
ready. Unit lost.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Building.
Acknowledged.
You know, I've never really mentioned it, but another thing I'm actually kind of anxious for, and that I never used as a kid, is going to be another function similar to attack move, I guess.
Building.
But,
Reporting.
you know, we'll see it in,
Yes, sir.
I guess, quite a bit at this point.
Reporting. Awaiting orders.
Unit lost.
Yes, sir. Of course. At point. Yes, sir. Affirmative. Yes, sir.
Construction complete. Unit lost.
Vehicle reporting. Acknowledged.
Building.
Reporting. Acknowledged. Waiting order. Yes, sir. Affirmative.
Construction complete.
Yes, affirmative. Yes, sir. Acknowledged.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Vehicle reporting. Acknowledged. Waiting order. Affirmative.
Thankfully, the AI is designed to actually sell all its stuff.
Yes, affirmative.
Or at least, the left base is, because it lost its construction yard. And all its buildings.
Vehicle
Unit
reporting.
ready.
Report affirmative.
Building.
Yes, sir.
Which, now that I think about it, and the way I'm progressing, is probably going to make this a little annoying, because I didn't kill, or maybe more specifically, I believe the AI replaced the helipad on the right side, which I believe is technically connected, if you want to call it that, to this main base.
Yes, sir.
Affirmative.
Yes, sir. Reporting.
Awaiting orders.
Alright, let's see if that speeds this up.
Reporting.
Yes, sir. Affirmative. Report on. Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Yes, sir.
Damn.
Acknowledged. Yes, sir. Indeed. Yes, sir.
Oh, and just a warning for... I don't believe it's the ending to this video, because we will be seeing another briefing, but you might want to just watch out and not have your audio too high. Reason being is that when they did their the videos, like the custom briefings, if you want to call them that, for the PlayStation version, audio balancing got really weird. I don't know if it's just where I got the videos from, or if it's something else. So keep that in mind if you ever notice there's some time after the credit / score screen.
Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Be acknowledged. Reporting. Affirmative. Waiting orders.
Construction complete.
Acknowledged.
Yes, sir. For king and country.
Oh no!
On my way.
Bond, run away! The dog's after you! Save yourself!
Not deployed in.
Commander. On my way. Commander. On my way.
Building.
Commander.
Get the tanks! Get the tanks! What am I doing?
Construction complete.
No, you can make it!
Yes, sir. Acknowledged.
Perfect.
Yes, sir. Affirmative.
Now, it would have been so much cooler if that was the actual end of the video, and not, having to clean up these ore trucks.
Acknowledged. Acknowledged. Waiting orders. Acknowledged. Reporting.
Yes, sir. Acknowledged.
Commander. On my way. On my way. Yes, sir. For king and country.
It looks kind of weird, but there is actually a path on that,
Acknowledged.
leftmost side of the map. So, while you don't technically have to go through the base, you could just go around it on either side. It's
Affirmative.
probably something that's more obvious when you look at the map as a whole, like from the start, but there's Tesla coils near that side, so not a real smart decision.
Affirmative. Waiting order. Acknowledged.
Yes, sir.
Acknowledged.
Silos
Affirmative.
needed.
Yes, sir.
Silos needed.
Affirmative.
Silos.
At some point I'll realize that the ore trucks, in my base chasing other ore trucks.
Unit ready.
I'm tempted to say there's something wonky with the fact that I have 2 construction yards, and maybe the AI is just confused as to where it should send its units, but I don't know.
Unit ready. Building.
I just play with the cards I'm dealt with.
Unit ready. Mission accomplished.
Stavros, you old dog. Have you got any idea what a pain in the ass you are? Well, that's not what I hear. The commander here tells me that he had to assign 3 privates to clean your diapers. General Stavros wishes to offer you his deepest appreciation and congratulations on your brilliant career.